After 7 months or so of COVID restrictions, it's difficult for her to concentrate. She has less appetite. She lights up when she sees other people. She's in repetitive modes. She's showing signs of late-stage Alzheimer's, of cognitive decline. She's unable to read anymore. She was reading her newspaper in the morning, every morning for a long time. But since COVID, she really hasn't been interested in reading. I think a lot of Jane's cognitive decline can be attributed to the depression around social isolation. And I think being around other human beings is magic for her.
The pandemic is sort of a recipe for disaster for anyone with cognitive decline. Social isolation is not recommended. The loss of my dad's day program has been, I'd say, the biggest loss for him through the COVID-19 pandemic. Five days a week, he used to get up in the morning and be gone until 4:30 in the afternoon, out with other people also living with cognitive decline, going to museums, having lunch at restaurants, and socializing. And so that was huge for him, I think, in keeping him really vibrant. And so now getting him up is a chore. It's really hard, and I understand it. I mean, what's there to get up for?
So we can't go see our friends. We have to wear masks. We can't go out to breakfast every Tuesday morning anymore, or go to our art group or memory care cafe lunch. So the reason why we can't, you know why? Because of all this here. Handcuffs. We're handcuffed. I think that would be a good interpretation of what Jane just said. Jane has always been this really positive, kind, sweet human. There's not a mean bone in her body. So we met in 2001, in June of 2001. So this past June, it was 19 years that we've been together. She taught art in the San Mateo High School district for about 20 years or so. And she's also an accomplished artist on her own. She retired in 2005, and we moved to New Mexico and built a studio out back so she could do her art. In 2010, I noticed that she couldn't read a map. We lived in Albuquerque at the time where she wanted to retire, and there were only 2 highways, and she couldn't figure out which one went north and south or east and west. And I knew that was unusual for her because she's done a lot of traveling. Right after she was diagnosed, we got married. We were probably going to get married anyway. We had a domestic partnership, but I just didn't find any reason to. But after that, realizing we needed to both be protected property-wise and family-wise, we worked a lot at finding places to support us and to support her care and to support her continued cognitive steadiness. Our view was, let's find as much help as we possibly can so we can live as much of a normal life as we can for as long as we can. It seems the last 5 years, really, that we've been holding steady. We were very active. Breakfast clubs, groups, art, museum tours, walks with friends. And in the first 60 days of the COVID-19 restrictions and sheltering in place, that absence of the human contact and social contact, Jane saw a pretty big decline. A decline in using words, formulating thoughts, responding to social cues. Those things really went downhill very quickly.
My dad had two careers. Before I was born, he was a museum curator. When he moved out to California, he was working at the de Young Museum. When I was born, he went to law school and he was an attorney. I'm Vanessa Carter. I think anyone who's connected to Alzheimer's wishes that they weren't, but I was first connected because my grandmother had Alzheimer's when I was little. And then my mom developed symptoms of Alzheimer's in 2012 and got a formal diagnosis in 2014. And my husband and I moved home to care for her and my dad about 3 years ago. So I'm in my childhood home, and she passed away in the summer of 2019. I'll say that I really appreciated, we were here while I was pregnant, and she met Wesley and they knew each other for the first 5 months of his life. And so that was really special. My dad's memory is on that really short cycle. So he repeats questions, every 15 minutes or so, and doesn't make the same logical decisions about, but he used to be quite handy. He was a sailor and was Mr. Fix-It, and started making really bad decisions. So we eventually moved his power tools out of the house. Fortunately, we're still in the phase where he can bathe himself and he can dress himself. My dad is still really active and mobile. He, prior to the pandemic, used to go to a day program every day. And so obviously with the pandemic, that has all changed, and we're all now home together. When the pandemic first started, my dad's day program tried to pivot just like everyone did, just like school systems did, and to offer programming through Zoom. And I think my dad was kind of like most kids, where staring at a screen did not grab his attention. And so, I was able to get him up and out of bed and in front of the screen by 10 a.m. that first day. And then I spent the next, I would say I fought for maybe 2 weeks or so to get him out of bed and to get him ready for online programming for 2 hours. And it just didn't work. He didn't enjoy it. And so eventually I decided that the fights weren't worth it. The interruption to my work wasn't worth it. I was running up and downstairs every 15 minutes to try to prod him to get out of bed and get in the shower and get dressed. And he just didn't want to. The days are really monotonous for him. Fortunately, we have a really beautiful routine every afternoon at around 4 p.m. He and my 21-month-old son, we go for a walk up the street. And so, we're the three generations tootling up the street, my dad with his walker and my son in his little push car. I do feel grateful for that.
Social contact, I can't tell you how much it helps. So the shelter in place took that away. And that was really keeping, I think, Jane very, very present. And so we grieved that. It's created, I am now 24/7. Whereas before I would leave for a few hours, maybe take a walk, a hike, visit with friends, go out for coffee, go to my classes at City College, and I would have no concern that Jane was safe and doing what she wanted to do and enjoying what she wanted to enjoy. Now, no way.
I don't know that he understands the fact that it's a global pandemic really impacting the entire world, particularly certain countries. I'm not sure that if I asked him about that, he could share that information. But he does understand that when I ask him to wear a mask when we're out, that's important. That said, it was, his visits out of the house have been really limited to a suburban neighborhood walk. And so when we had to go to the store, we went to Safeway's pharmacy to get a flu shot recently, and to see lots of people in masks, everyone in masks, that was a little confusing to him. He was a little shocked by that. his sense of time is really compromised, with his cognitive impairment. And so when we go on a walk and he says, well, it's too bad I can't go to my day program, but they'll figure it out in the next few weeks or so. I don't correct him because it doesn't help. It doesn't make him a happier person.
So I'm responsible for Jane's happiness and contentment. So we don't explain things because explaining things doesn't work. Words don't have those meanings anymore. They don't connect to emotions anymore. Emotions just are what they are. Feelings just are what they are. So there's no reason to explain anything. Boredom is something that you experience a lot of where we didn't before. So, and I'm not much of an entertainer, which is why we used to go everywhere and do everything, because that was entertainment and contentment. And so now a lot of boredom, and I do my best. But
being a caregiver right now, yes, there are some days when this is really hard and I'm really at wit's end and not a pleasant person as a wife or a daughter or a mom or a friend or an employee. I won't pretend that that's not true. I feel guilty about my capacity to care well for my dad. I'm working full time, and anytime that I'm not working, of course I want to be with my son because he's an adorable toddler, and that's what you want to do as a mom, as a new mom. And so I really worry about, am I giving my dad his best life right now? And some days I really am not sure. And some days I am sure, because it would make me so sad to know if he were in a facility and we weren't able to see him. There are such restrictions on families' capacity to visit when people are in memory care facilities right now during the pandemic. So sometimes I'm really grateful he's home, and other times, I just feel terrible that I'm not taking him to museums and taking him out to lunch and being able to facilitate social engagement like he had with his day program 5 days a week. And I know that, the lack of social engagement, it leads to increased, more rapid cognitive decline. So I don't feel good about that.
She's showing signs of late stage Alzheimer's, of cognitive decline. She's forgotten who I am a couple of times, and that never happened before. She's in repetitive modes where someone goes over and over and over the thoughts in their mind. It's hard for her. There's no outside stimulation to keep her from grabbing onto something and looping into it. So I find myself most of the time trying to divert her attention to get it to a better place. A bird, a butterfly, anything that flies. We adopted 2 kittens. Those are things that bring her joy. And the kittens have been life-saving for sure. She's more afraid now that I'm not there. So we have a few hours of respite, maybe I do, and she'll ask about me the whole time I'm gone. So that's a new thing just in the last few months since COVID, that she's become more afraid that I won't be around.
My dad is remarkably patient with not being able to go out. Part of the cognitive decline is not regretting or missing or knowing to ask for what you're missing. It's he's just really present for what's present. And so when something good comes to him or something new, it really helps. And in the absence of it, I think that we're lucky that he's really patient with it. I know that not all people living with cognitive impairment feel the same way. And we don't experience that type of agitation where he's trying to leave the house or he's wandering. Not to say that phase might not come, but it's not happening now. It's hard to know the trajectory. I mean, this is one of the things that's so hard. And COVID has, is sort of this timeless, endless, and yet it's just a strange period of time right now. And I think everyone in quarantine, feels that way, that it's hard to perceive time passing. And so it's it hasn't made it any easier for us to experience, what his decline may or may not be like. But as this goes on, and it sort of feels like, I feel like I'm waiting for this all to be over, and this isn't going to be over. This is life, this is the way, whether it's because of the pandemic or whether it's, caring for my dad and being a mom, and that's no complaint whatsoever. It's the biggest joy of my life. But life looks really different. Yeah.
What I want to say to other caregivers, no matter who you're taking care of, this dementia thing, learn as much as you can about it. I've been so fortunate to learn from all these agencies that we plugged into. We just got busy. Just get busy. Get out there and get busy and find out everything you can about it, and live each moment. Don't go into the future or the past. Just stay right here. There's a lot of joy in just staying right here with your care recipient. If you do remember, how does it feel to have Alzheimer's?
Apparently, they said that I had it.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? Are you going to just sit down and do nothing? I'm still going to do what I want to do and live my life.
You go through stuff. You keep living.
Mm-hmm.
Keep trying to find the joy.
And I do.